Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back, and today we're going to be talking about two separate titles that I love talking about to answer a question I've had for a while. If the Justice League were Jedi, what color lightsabers would they have? Now, I already have a video going over the different lightsaber colors and their meanings, so go check out that video, since I'm not going to go into too much detail about what the colors mean here. And just so that everyone is aware, I'm going to be talking about the first 7 members from the DC animated universe in the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited TV shows. That means we're going to be specifically looking at Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, The Flash, Hawkgirl, and Martian Manhunter. So with all that out of the way, let's begin. When talking about Batman, he has the most amount to talk about. When you immediately look at him, and even when you know a little bit about him, you'd assume he'd wield a purple lightsaber, or even the dark saber. I mean, for gosh sakes, he is literally called the Dark Knight, but he also manages to balance the darkness within him. However, this doesn't seem like a good match for him. He has such a good heart, like when he sits down with Ace during her final moments, which would emphasize him wielding a silver lightsaber, as that is the color of a true Jedi, as they'd rather not fight, but just sit and comfort.
Batman,
Ace.
did you like playing with my new Royal Flush gang?
Can't say that I did.
Yeah, they aren't any fun at all.
Can't imagine why.
When I was little, Cadmus used to make me play all kinds of games, but they weren't any fun either. They weren't really games, you know. They were training me, turning me into a weapon for justice, they said. They got their weapon. I got cheated out of my childhood.
I know what that's like.
You do, don't you? You don't have to answer. I read your mind. You were going to try and talk me into fixing what I've changed.
Yes.
I'm dying very soon.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Could you stay with me? I'm scared.
Then there's also a green lightsaber, as Batman would prefer to help others rather than harming them, as he only does this when it's necessary to save Gotham. And while some may say he would rather punch or intimidate his enemies instead of just talking or helping them, he has done this with several of his villains. He's not going to talk or calm down the Joker, but he will for Harley Quinn or Mr. Freeze, and has done so in the past. However, he's also very skilled and is prepared for anything, as was seen when he defeated the Amazo android by showing him kryptonite, which he carries around for seemingly no reason except for insurance.
You don't have any powers.
I have this. It's a package deal. You get our strengths, but you also get our weaknesses.
You always carry kryptonite around with you?
Call it insurance.
And they say I'm scary.
So, he would also be a perfect Jedi to wield a yellow lightsaber. And that would be a very good choice, as he does prefer to work alone more often than working with others. And he's even admitted to that. And not to mention, he's also a very skilled fighter, leading me to believe that he could also wield a blue lightsaber, as he is always ready for battle. However, I personally think, based on his part-time title in the League, his reaction in Panic in the Sky,
You want me to what?
Turn yourself over into U.S. custody, along with the rest of us.
This is the single dumbest plan I've ever heard. If you're feeling guilty, clear your own name. Don't stand on the sidelines waiting for somebody else to do it.
You have to come with us, Bruce.
I don't have to do anything. I'm a part-timer, remember?
Actually, he took it a lot better than I'd expected.
And his relationship with most of the other League members is that Batman would wield a yellow lightsaber and be part of the Sentinel class of the Order. And it makes sense. He's a loner and would rather be on solo missions to discover and dig out criminals rather than working with the whole group.
You don't have any special powers.
Oh, I have one, Johnny. I never give up.
Next is Superman. Now, Superman is the all-powerful alien with a heart of gold. You may think that because of this, he would be perfect for either a gold lightsaber or a silver lightsaber. However, he has a bit of a dark side that can be seen in Twilight, Legacy, and the Cadmus arc, where he quite literally looks to bring down and even kill his enemies.
Any minute now, Brainiac will explode. And guess what? You're going with him. No, Darkseid. To get off this rock, you'll have to go through me.
What makes you think today's outcome will be any different?
Because this time, I won't stop until you're just a greasy smear on my fist.
Because of this, he would also be a good pick for wielding a purple lightsaber and even a pink lightsaber. However, he is also extremely powerful and, even though he can literally punch a building to dust, he keeps his powers in check to never let loose like that, unless absolutely necessary. Like when fighting Darkseid.
That man won't quit as long as he can still draw a breath. None of my teammates will. Me? I've got a different problem. I feel like I live in a world made of cardboard, always taking constant care not to break something, to break someone. Never allowing myself to lose control, even for a moment, or someone could die. But you can take it, can't you, big man? What we have here is a rare opportunity for me to cut loose and show you just how powerful I really am.
So, he might also be a good Jedi to wield a green lightsaber or a gold lightsaber. And I just realized that I mentioned him potentially having a gold lightsaber twice. And when you really think about it, and looking at his entire character arc in both Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, a gold lightsaber would make the most sense. He is extremely powerful, but cares for the people and for life itself, only breaking out when dealing with more powerful villains. However, even when he teeters on going to the dark side, he still manages to stay in the light and find his way back.
Van, when you were born, it was the happiest day of my life. When I first saw your beautiful little face, your tiny fingers squeezed my hand so tight, like you never wanted to let go. I've watched every step, every struggle, but I don't think you're real. I don't think any of this is real. You are everything I ever wanted in a son. This is everything I ever wanted in a life. But I've got responsibilities, Van, and I have to go now. I promise you, I'll never forget.
Wonder Woman. Now, Wonder Woman was initially very hard for me to figure out, as she's just all over the place in the series. On one hand, she is a fighter, so she'd be a perfect wielder of a blue lightsaber. However, she's very anger-prone, as shown in the episode Hawk and Dove, making it a better assumption that she would wield a red lightsaber or a pink lightsaber.
I try to take a day off, try to have a semblance of a normal life, but you had to pick today to rob a bank. Oh yeah, like that's going to work. Your kind never learns, and it's really starting to get on my nerves.
Diana.
In a minute.
Diana!
I'm not finished here!
I'd say you are.
However, she does have a good heart and is very kind, as if a big sister to everyone, making her a good choice for a green lightsaber or a purple lightsaber. So you can see how it would be very difficult, because she's a warrior by heart and so a little more prone to anger, but she gave up her entire life on Themyscira to help save the entire world. Which shows a nice side to her as well. And she has such great relationships with other members of the League, particularly with Batman and Jean.
A little sharp on the turn, don't you think?
Sorry if I scared you.
However, I do believe I found a good color for her to wield. Because of her warrior status and potential dark side, I think she'd be perfect with an indigo lightsaber, which is a combination of blue and purple, combining their schools of teaching.
Watch. I'll be out in days.
Not with a broken leg, you won't.
Now, let's talk about the Green Lantern, known as John Stewart. My first joking thought would be that he'd be great with a green lightsaber. But that's more just a joke, as it complements his suit perfectly. He really doesn't have too much in the way of a Jedi consular. My next thought was maybe a blue lightsaber, since he's an intergalactic police officer, or even a gold lightsaber, as he's defined by his willpower, like when he absorbed all the energy from inside the power battery when facing the Manhunters. That shows his true dedication.
In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light!
I would also say that he could wield a yellow lightsaber as well, since he is also a police officer who can leave the League to go off for other missions. However, it also comes from a Green Lantern's ability to overcome great fear, but also the Guardians giving the Corps full autonomy because of their trust in them. So in that case, you could argue he might also be a wielder of a white lightsaber. However, the best possible lightsaber color for him, in my opinion, would be a blue lightsaber, as he is a cop who goes out into the universe to fight against evil, just like a Jedi Guardian.
I know it sounds corny, but those comics taught me what it meant to be a hero. Without them, well, maybe I wouldn't have this ring today.
Next up is the Flash, and he might actually be the easiest to determine.
Huh?
My primary source for him was in the Justice League Unlimited episode, Flash and Substance. This episode is centered around the Flash and why he's so beloved by everyone in both the show and reality. And it's through this episode that I would say his lightsaber color would be green, silver, or even cyan. While he will fight villains, he will also be there for his friends and even some of his enemies. When dealing with the Trickster, Batman and Orion are ready to hospitalize him, but the Flash is there to talk him down and just be his friend.
James, you're off your meds, aren't you?
I'm better off without him. Take him if I start feeling down.
You know that's not how the medicine works. You're not well.
I'm fine.
Listen, James, you're wearing the suit again.
I am? Well, what do you know?
Even down to promising to meet him later on to play darts. He also knows just about everyone from Central City by name and is there to help each and every one of them out with whatever problems they have. He really takes the time to be there for everyone, both to listen to them and help them out as needed. And I do think that he'd be a perfect match for a cyan lightsaber. He's always ready to throw down against villains, but will also be there to just talk with people.
Come on, we better get over there.
What about your enemy?
Oh, right. Dude, as soon as you finish your drink, turn yourself in.
Got me again, Flash.
Then we got Hawkgirl. Now for her it was a little less obvious on what her lightsaber color should be. Initially, you see that she's a true warrior, and she would be perfect to wield a blue lightsaber. As even she says, the way of her people is to attack or die.
Are you always so eager to fight?
My home Thanagar is a warlike world. There one must strike first, or die.
And she demonstrates this mindset in just about every episode, as she cares more for the battle and the heat of a fight than anything else. However, I would also argue that she might wield a purple lightsaber. My first reasoning for that is that one thing I forgot to mention in my lightsaber colors video was that some wielders of purple lightsabers enjoy the heat of battle. My other reasoning for this color comes from her dark side, as shown in the Justice League episodes Star-Crossed, when she betrays her team. But she then did what she could to make up for it, and eventually did the right thing. However, one might argue that she could also wield a pink lightsaber during the events of Justice League Unlimited, as she did betray the League, but found her way back to becoming a hero and helping her friends and allies. However, even still, she will go as far as to kill someone if absolutely necessary, as was the case with Grundy. So, in her case, a pink lightsaber would probably be her preferred weapon of choice.
I don't know what I am. I'm not Lieutenant Shayera Hall of the Thanagarian Empire. I'm not Hawkgirl. That was always a sham. Most people on Earth will never trust me again, and I can't blame them. When I do my job, people get hurt. People I care about.
And what happens when you don't do your job?
And finally, we come to Martian Manhunter, or as he just went by in the show, J'onn J'onzz. Now, I saved him for last because I went back and forth so many times when thinking about and writing this video. Now, my first inclination was that he might wield a silver lightsaber, as he is very calm and knowledgeable about what the League is doing. At the very least, during the events of Justice League Unlimited, he was in charge of mission structure for the entire League.
The Justice League currently has 23 active missions in progress. Only I can properly deploy what remains of our resources.
However, on the other hand, he acts a bit more of a counselor for the League members. And so, I think he also might be a good fit for wielding a green lightsaber, as he is there to talk to anyone who needs help, or bring people back down to Earth, so to speak.
You miss your homeworld very much. It doesn't take a telepath to see what's troubling you.
I suppose not.
Forgive me. I didn't mean to pry.
However, he could also be a wielder of an orange lightsaber, as while he is also a counselor for the League, he resigned from his role in the League during Season 3 of JLU and decided to live as a human to learn more about how they lived.
I've been thinking about what you said, and about the horrible despair of Prince John's life. I'm a Martian. I'll live far longer than he did, And unless I find a way to connect with humanity, I'll live out that time totally alone. I can't learn what I need to learn on the Watchtower.
You could also argue that he would be a wielder of the Darksaber, since he is the only Martian in the League and the galaxy, quite literally making him the most unique person in the galaxy. However, I personally think he would wield two lightsabers. I personally believe he would wield a cyan lightsaber during the events of Justice League, and change to a silver lightsaber during JLU. My reasoning for this is that he's a fighter and counselor in Justice League, where he'd fight but is more of a negotiating friend. But later in JLU, changes to be a bit more of a guiding voice for the heroes on missions.
I should be back in time for dinner. I love you too.
These are the end times.
And that's it for the founding members of the Justice League. If you like this video, let me know in the comments what other pop culture characters you think I should take a look at next and give lightsaber colors to. Make sure to give a like to this video, subscribe if you haven't, and ring that bell for notifications. Thanks so much for watching, you guys, and I'll see you next time.
Where'd he get this stuff? Warlocks are us?
Don't touch that.
Oops.
Don't touch anything! We don't know what kind of powers we're dealing with.
Bruce, you didn't get him a gift certificate.
No. Cash.
Well? I have no idea how to fly this vehicle.
What's this do?
That's not helping.
Me next. It's my turn. Nothing as stupid as a giant boomerang. Firstly, I get 400 cases of fake dog vomit. I grease the bottoms of them. And when the Flash runs into them, the whole mess slides into a wall of metal spikes. The cases break open, and what's left of the Flash is buried alive in phony barf. And then everything explodes! But come on, it'll be great. Okay, you don't like the barf? I can make do with 50,000 rotten eggs and a chainsaw.